Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm very excited to bring you a look at the new Transformers Shattered Glass Autobot Blaster and Autobot Rewind. This 2-pack, I guess you could call it technically, is the second release of the second wave of Shattered Glass toys that have been released exclusively through Hasbro Pulse here in the US and then other retailers worldwide. And this toy is, unsurprisingly, a Shattered Glass redeco of the Kingdom/Legacy Blaster toy, which was, just released here within the last year. And as such is one of the new Shattered Glass toys that is the most faithful to the original, because the original Shattered Glass Blaster was just a recolor of the G1 Blaster, and this War for Seibertron/Legacy Blaster is a recreation of that design. So, unlike some other characters, he doesn't stray very far from his source material. That being said, if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at Blaster's packaging, then we'll open it up, we'll get a quick look at the instructions, and then we'll see Blaster and Rewind in both their alternate and robot modes. Naturally, I'll be doing plenty of group shots and comparisons today, and then at the end of the video, I'll get my final thoughts. So Blaster and Rewind come in your standard Voyager-sized Shattered Glass packaging, complete with all sorts of jagged edges, because, it's shattered glass. So we got this nice little open window here where you can see Blaster just kind of hanging out. You can see Rewind there in the side. I don't know if you guys have enough light to see that, but it is down there. We get some nice artwork of Blaster right here. We get the close-up on this front little breakaway, and then a more full body shot on this side. Then on the other side, we get an even bigger, fuller body shot of Blaster with his name at the bottom. And then on the back, we get renders of the toys in their tape and cassette deck modes. Rewind takes 8 steps to transform, Blaster takes 20. We get some really nice little flavor text here that says, Blaster specializes as the communications expert for the Autobots. He has the ability to harness Earth's classical music as a sonic weapon to unleash on his enemies. Now, this bio here, this little bit of flavor text, does seem to clash with his personality in the new comics, which I'll show you here in a second. This seems to be based off of the original Shattered Glass Blaster, who is more of a no-nonsense, almost like drill instructor type guy with like a German-sounding accent. And he, instead of being like the fun, hip character, he's very serious, and he, played like classical music as opposed to, rock and roll or hip-hop or anything like that. The new Blaster has a very, very different characterization. So it seems that this write-up was made before they actually wrote his story for the comics and went a very, very different route. And I don't want to spoil that for you, but he's, as far as personality, a little bit closer to just regular G1 Blaster, just more evil and narcissistic. So speaking of the comics, we get the one that comes with this release right here. Again, some really beautiful artwork of Blaster and Rewind, just jumping through this shattered, what looks like an Autobot symbol right there. Get your shiny little glass bits all around him. Really, really nice. Then you just get the Hasbro Pulse logo on the back. And you get a very interesting story that, again, I don't want to spoil too much, but the art is nice. The artwork is by Dan Kana, so, pretty quality stuff. And yeah, it's a nice comic, and as of recording this, it's actually released ahead of the regular retail release of the second issue of Shattered Glass 2. So whereas with Ultra Magnus, where I got, his exclusive comic after getting the retail one, because that came out like the week prior, this one is actually new, so I got to read it and get his story before the local comic shops even got it in. So that's pretty cool. It does help sell the markup that they charge for these guys, because, they charge you more for the comic, but they charge you more than what, an actual comic costs as the difference. So it is nice to at least, get these early. You're getting, a little bit of a perk for that upcharge. Okay, now we have our instruction sheet for Blaster and Rewind. You can see renders of the characters in the middle with their names, and then all your branding around the edges. We open this up. The first bit shows you how to place Blaster's rifle in his hand. Then this shows you how to pose him, like he's opening his little eject button, and open up his chest compartment there. And it shows you how to place Rewind inside of his chest and close it back up. Then we get to see the transformation for Blaster from robot to cassette deck. Shows you how to place his rifle on the back, and then how to store a cassette in there again, though obviously it's the same way you do it in robot mode. And then lastly, we get a transformation from cassette mode to robot mode for Rewind. So it's pretty well fleshed out. Make sure it covers all the bases, which is really all you can ask for instructions. Now we get to see Blaster's boombox mode, and you can see Rewind inside of his chest there. And, you know, if you've seen the Kingdom / Legacy Blaster, you kind of already know what to expect here. The biggest difference, obviously, being the colors. And the color layout is actually very similar, too. He basically trades out regular Universe Blaster's gray for black, red for a light gray, and then black for a darker gray. And then, I guess some black becomes blue, too. I don't know, it's kind of all over the place. Gets your big purple Autobot symbol right here on the tape door. Press this button right here. Technically, you can press any of them because they're all in the same piece. Opens it up, reveals the cassette, which you can take out. You can see it's transparent, just like Eject was, which means he's probably just on the same sprue as Blaster's door here. And, I mean, he looks kind of like a cassette-ish. I mean, you know, they're focusing much more on robot modes than they are alt modes in modern Transformers, most of the time anyway. So, you know, you're tending to see the alt mode suffer a little bit and be a little bit less realistic. But it's workable. It's a rectangle, and it's got little holes, you know, for the, like, spindles to turn the tape. And it's really all you need. Back of it, pretty plain looking. So, go ahead and keep them in here for now. I'll go in. There you go. The back here, this actually fell off. You can see that this rifle gets stored along the back, utilizing a little slot right here in the handle. Goes on this tab. And this is kind of where the alt mode falls apart, right? It really just looks like a folded up robot. It doesn't look like the back of a cassette deck or boombox at all. But again, they do prioritize robot mode, which I'm actually okay with. I prefer them doing that. And of course, you get your little handle so you can carry it around, you know, listen to some tunes. And overall, it's pretty nice looking. And honestly, the colors on this look a lot more like the colors you would actually find on a boombox, which are, you know, primarily like blacks and grays, compared to regular Blaster with his red and yellow and everything. All right, here's a group shot with the aforementioned regular Blaster. So you can see he's in his more traditional colors, bright yellow cassette door, regular Autobot symbol. And unlike this one, he actually comes with Eject, which, you know, that's kind of the big difference there. It just makes more sense to pair this Blaster with Rewind because the Shattered Glass Rewind is red. But since this Blaster's door is blue, they went with the blue character, Eject. I mean, they're really just palette swaps of each other. I will say I do like the look of Eject a little more. It's that cool icy blue color really just works for me. So yeah, they both look really cool. I think they both have their pros and cons when it comes to the color scheme. I did say that this does look overall more like a real-life boombox. The big difference, I think, is all the blue on like the handle and the speakers and everything. They would more likely be black like what this Blaster has. So, you know, you kind of give some, take some. Take a look at the backs of them. And, you know, both look about the same. I do think his colors still work for him better on even the backside because it looks less, I don't know, just kind of bright and glaringly not an actual boombox. But that's just my perspective. And then lastly, we get a comparison with the original Shattered Glass Blaster, which is just a recolor of Generation 1 Twin Cast. You'll notice it's a Twin Cast and not Blaster because molding-wise, Twin Cast has a retooled chest compartment to hold 2 tapes, and this one can also hold 2 tapes. If you open it up, you can see there's an extra slot right there. This is our original Shattered Glass Rewind right here. It's kind of hiding from me. So if you want to compare these two. Obviously, this guy goes for the solid coloration instead of clear, but you can see the color layout lines up very, very well as far as the details and everything. And you look at the back. This is the side that actually looks like a tape for this guy. It says Vinny's Motors on it and everything. It's got like little tape spool on the inside. So, you know, the alt modes, I think overall were a lot stronger in Generation 1. They focus much more on that, you know, disguise aspect of the Transformers. Whereas, you know, the focus on modern action figures in general is, you know, posability, articulation, proportions. So that does mean that the alt modes, unfortunately, are going to suffer a bit. And you can really see it here. You know, this is just shaped a lot better and looks more like a real-life boombox. Doesn't have a lot of, you know, extraneous details on it. And then turn it around. Even the back looks a lot better. It's nice and flat. The only thing that really gives it away is a little bit of the head poking out here. So, you know, it is what it is. There is a design philosophy shakeup between the 80s and now. I mean, heck, it's been almost 40 years, so, you know, things are going to change over time. Now, one thing you'll notice is that this blaster has these cool designs all over him. These were actually optional stickers that came with this guy. I don't think they're part of his, like, canonical design. I'm pretty sure any fictional appearance he had lacked those. But it was a really neat little thing to put on there, and I opted to attach them because I think they just make him look a little bit less plain. Here's a quick look at Rewind with his mold mate and his G1 counterpart, just so you can see how he compares against the two. Again, the molding is exactly the same between these two guys, and I really do prefer the icy blue and gold coloration of, you know, Positive Universe Eject. But the nice ruby coloration of our SG Rewind is pretty nice too. Then, you know, the original one here, like I said, has a much better tape mode because it actually gets stickers on it to make it look like a tape. The reverse side just looks like this, basically. And, you know, overall, I would say, obviously, the alt mode just works out much better for this. And I'm not crazy about the colors. I think they are a little too bright for an Evil character, and these maybe should have been darker, like these reds here. But, yeah, it's an old toy. It's nothing worth really ruminating about. And now here's a quick look at Rewind's robot mode with, again, his mold mate and his G1 counterpart. Now, one thing I will give this guy credit for over the Eject version is that he does have more color breakup, because I actually went out of their way to paint his forearms white to match this guy's design. So that does help keep him from looking too samey, whereas Eject is really just two main colors. Now, I think his face colors are kind of off-putting with that weird, like, sky blue mouth plate there, but it is what it is. And even though it's kind of hard to make out, he does have painted red eyes. And then we get, you know, the G1 version, which is obviously a lot bigger. He does have these cool shin details that would have been nice if they had been replicated on this guy with, like, some blue paint or something. And, of course, he does come with two weapons that these Kingdom cassettes or, you know, Legacy cassettes don't actually have. In fact, the only post-War for Seibertron cassette to come with weapons is the upcoming Studio Series 86 Rumble. So I don't know if the additional accessories or weapons are going to become a staple moving forward, or if it's just going to be on a case-by-case basis. But these guys, you know, it's a good thing they're highly articulated. Kind of offsets the disappointment that they don't get their little blasters. But it still would have been cool if they got something, you know, at least vaguely resembling these. Okay, now we get to see Blaster in his robot mode, with Rewind just hanging out off to his side. And one thing I will say about this robot mode is it's very, very well proportioned for something that has to turn into a rectangle. And aside from some little bit of fake kibble nonsense going on, he overall has a very solid transformation. The only thing that's a little, you know, iffy in my opinion is the speakers here. They flip away and hide in the cassette mode, and then you just see the ones on the inner legs here. So these actually don't go away. On the one hand, it's kind of cheaty. On the other, it's actually very accurate to the cartoon, where the grills over the speakers just kind of disappear in robot mode. So I guess they had to pull it off somehow. So, you know, I guess I'll give him a pass there. I love the colors on this guy. I never thought black and this, like, dark navy blue would be a good mixture, but it's something about it. The way it actually really clashes, but I kind of like that because it's different. Especially like the blue being used on the rifle there. I think it looks really cool. The all-black face, I think maybe they could have gone with something a little bit different just because it makes the features hard to make out. You can see here, with some light shining on him, you can kind of make out the nose and the mouth, but in a, you know, somewhat dark setting, you're probably not going to be able to see much of his face, just his eyes. Tolerances on this guy are just as good as they've ever been. All the joints feel good. They're nice and tight, but not too tight. Everything on him feels great. And yeah, if you have an interest in a differently colored blaster, I think you'll find he's just as good as the regular version. You might even prefer his colors to the regular version. I don't know. Let's see. Let's go ahead and look at his little button pressing finger. Poor Rewind just getting abused today. All right. So, it's molded in a way to where you're supposed to be able to like make it touch his buttons. Now, it can't really actually push the buttons in because the forearm kind of collides. Unless you like bend his wrist inward, then you might be able to pull it off. But I think just getting it to where it's looking like it's pressing the button is good enough. Opens up, you see all the cool detailing in there, and you can store Rewind, or any post-War for Seibertron cassette. They'll all fit in there, though some may fit a little better than others. Now, unlike his G1 counterpart, he's not molded with the extended chest, which is kind of unfortunate. It seems inevitable that they will retool this mold into Twincast down the line and include him with the positive universe version of Rewind, since Twincast also has a red chest window. So it would have been cool if they had kind of jumped ahead a little bit and just tooled that new bigger chest into this guy so he can carry the two cassettes. Not a huge deal, but it would have been nice to have that consistency there. Here's our comparison with the positive universe Blaster and Eject in their robot modes. And I will say in this mode, I do prefer the regular Blaster colors. And I think a big part of that is just the way that they're laid out and the way they are. His features and his details just stand out a lot better. Now, I do still like the black on blue that this guy uses, but overall, I do find your regular, G1 Blaster's coloration just a little easier on the eyes. Especially when it comes to, like, the face, because you actually make out his facial features now. But, it's not a huge preference. Like, they're both good in their own right. And this color scheme does do a very good job of taking a heroic-looking character and making him look very evil, which is the entire point of Shattered Glass, right? So I think he succeeds very well at that. And one thing I've just now noticed is that these guys' cassettes are ironically more similar in color to their opposite universe, like Blaster, than they are to, the one they come with. So he's primarily red, he's primarily blue, I guess he's got a lot of blue, maybe not primarily. Maybe that's a stretch, but it does seem like they're kind of made for each other, so I could see some people maybe wanting to swap them around just to have a more color-coordinated cassette. And here again is the G1-based Shatterglass Blaster, and if you thought he was bigger in his cassette mode, he is absolutely massive by comparison in the robot mode. So, same overall color schemes. They did a very good job of replicating the looks of this guy into this guy. The big difference really is just the massive amount of blue on the legs, though if you extend these, I think, you know what, that is blue underneath. Some people view this bit right here as being part of the leg, and you can have him that way. It just makes him absurdly tall and very oddly proportioned. I do prefer to collapse the legs down a little bit. So I guess that's even technically accurate because there is blue in there between the hip area and the knees. And overall, I think he really nailed the look. Now, on the one hand, it might have been kind of cool if they actually tampoed these swirly designs on there, but I wouldn't expect that because, again, I don't think those designs are canon. I think it was just an optional thing you could do for fun. One big difference is that this, being based on the G1 toy, has a pretty different head design compared to this guy. He's got more of a goggle-based helmet. It's much more rounded, and he's got actual horns instead of these little ear-like things. Now, I actually prefer the more toy-based blaster head, or even more so the comic-based one, like what we saw in the Titans Return Blaster. I do prefer that over, the cartoon-based head sculpt. But I know I'm probably in the minority here, so most people will probably be happy with the fact that they did, change this guy's head design to look like the cartoon, because most G1 fans are fans of the cartoon first and foremost. So yeah, these two, they do look pretty cool side by side. This guy obviously has a much more advanced robot mode. It's far more well-engineered, articulated, all that stuff. But sometimes the classics are just a lot of fun to look at and appreciate for what they are. And this completes our look at the new Shattered Glass Blaster and Rewind. I do think Blaster is one of the better looking Shattered Glass toys as far as his color scheme and everything and just general coolness. However, he's ironically also one of the most low effort Shattered Glass toys, being just a straight recolor. There's no new tooling. They couldn't even be bothered to retool the chest or anything. Which, on the one hand, is kind of accurate, because Shattered Glass Blaster does look just like a palette swap G1 Blaster. But it also means that, they didn't really invest in much as in this guy as they did, say, Megatron, right? Who has a whole bunch of new parts and stuff. So, yeah, I would personally pick him up just for the cool factor. I think he looks great. He may not be as, out there or different as some of the other Shattered Glass toys, but he is still really solid. And I do like his color scheme. I think it is a really cool, unique one. Not super crazy about the coloration of Rewind, but again, it's just based off a pre-existing color scheme, so they replicated it like perfectly, so I can't really hate on it. It's just not really my cup of tea. So I think these guys are pretty great. This is currently available from Hasbro Pulse and probably other retailers across the country, across the world. So if you have any interest in the Shattered Glass franchise or that concept at all, and you like the blaster design, I think this is kind of a no-brainer. It's an easy pickup, and you won't be disappointed. Of course, that's just how I feel about this little 2-pack, so now I want to know what you all think of these guys. Does this meet your expectations for a Shattered Glass Blaster? Do you really want to pick this guy up? Do you enjoy the color scheme? If you already do have him, do you like him as much as you thought you would? Or do you not want this? Either because you don't like the blaster toy, you don't like Shattered Glass, or you don't like the way this guy came out? Any and all feedback is always welcome in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining me for this look at the brand new Transformers Shattered Glass Blaster and Rewind. And with all that said, I will see you next time.